If you throw a rock into the air, it goes up, reaches its peak, and falls right back down. We don't have to guess why. Its entire path is dictated by gravity, momentum, and air resistance. The rock doesn't have a preference about where it lands. Now imagine an airplane doing the same thing. It takes off, hits a wall of dark storm clouds, and suddenly banks sharply to return to the runway. We don't explain that U-turn by measuring atmospheric pressure acting on the wings. We say the pilot saw the storm, felt afraid, and wanted to stay alive. That invisible element, intent, is the dividing line. Physics tracks the mindless reaction of matter, but human beings act with purpose. We have desires, we make choices, and we try to change our reality. For a long time, researchers tried to study societies the exact same way they studied the rock. They gathered massive amounts of aggregate data, plugged human behavior into mathematical formulas, and tried to predict the economy as if we were just atoms bouncing around in a container. This approach completely missed the pilot. Recognizing this flaw, the Austrian economist Ludwig von Mises formalized an entirely different framework. He called it praxeology, the logical study of purposeful human action. To understand the complex systems around us, we have to stop treating people like statistics in a physics equation. We have to start with the single, acting individual. In this framework, an action isn't a sneeze or a reflex. It is a conscious choice. It is human will put into operation. And for any action to take place, 3 specific conditions must be met. First, there must be a feeling of uneasiness. Here, an individual is in a state of deficit, hungry or dissatisfied. The second condition is imagination. They mentally picture a more satisfactory state where their problem is resolved. Finally, they must believe a specific behavior can bridge that gap. From getting out of bed in the morning to quitting a job and changing careers, every single deliberate move we make is driven by this exact 3-step engine of uneasiness. Here is the counterintuitive part. For a behavior to be an action, the person doesn't have to be objectively correct. They just have to act with purpose. Take historical tribes experiencing a severe drought. To fix it, they performed elaborate rain dances. Modern meteorology tells us dancing doesn't cause rain, but they felt the uneasiness of a dying crop, imagined a wet harvest, and believed this ritual would bridge the gap. The person doing a rain dance is operating the exact same mental machinery as a day trader buying a tech stock. Both feel dissatisfaction, and both deploy a chosen means to reach their goal. Observers might call the rain dance irrational, but that misses the point. Beneath the surface, all chosen behavior follows a strict internal logic. People use their reason to select a method, even if the method fails. When we scale this up to look at entire societies, we run into a strict rule. It is called methodological individualism. Simply put, only individuals act. Groups do not have minds. We often use linguistic shorthand, saying, in 1941, this country dropped a bomb. But a country is an abstract concept. It doesn't drop anything. Individual political leaders issue orders, military officers decide to obey them, and specific pilots physically press the buttons. Massive historical events aren't caused by collective entities moving like a flock of birds. They are the strict result of millions of individuals navigating their own personal incentives and making choices. This intense focus on the individual is how we derive the actual rules of economics. We don't start with global trade. We start with something as simple as handing someone a series of apples. This chart maps the urgency of human needs. The first apple satisfies the most urgent desire, eating to stay alive. 100th apple satisfies less important goals, like feeding squirrels. This is the law of diminishing marginal utility. Multiplied across millions of people, these individual values form the supply and demand curves that set prices. The staggering complexity of global trade isn't a machine operating on its own. It is simply the aggregate shadow cast by millions of individuals, each trying to cure their own specific uneasiness. When we apply this framework to the modern world, a stark reality emerges. The economy isn't an engine that can be tuned, steered, or engineered from the top down, yet governments frequently treat it like one. When institutions like central banks aggressively intervene to manipulate the money supply, They ignore the fact that value is subjective and created by individuals. These top-down mandates scramble the signals people rely on. The resulting chaos causes massive financial bubbles, systemic crises, and severe distortions of the natural market. Because the market is driven entirely by internal human desires, attempting to centrally plan it always leads to friction, conflict, and eventual failure. True social science does not come from tracking the aggregate statistics of a crowd. It comes from understanding the intent of the single individual, trying to navigate their way from uneasiness to satisfaction. The data doesn't tell the whole story. The models will always fall short. We can only comprehend the shape of our world once we accept that human purpose is the fundamental building block of our reality.